Between December 2024 and May 2025, the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group lost 3 A-18 Super Hornets during combat operations over Yemen. Not 1, 3. Each A-18 Super Hornet costs approximately $67 million. The 3 aircraft that went into the Red Sea represent roughly $200 million in losses, in a campaign that by May had been openly described by American officials as floundering, and that ended not with a military victory, but with a ceasefire that the Houthis claimed as their own. But the dollar figure is not the real story. The real story is how each of those aircraft was lost, and what the Navy's own investigation found when it looked at the USS Truman's deployment from September 2024 to June 2025. The word the investigation used was catastrophic. This is what happened. December 22, 2024, the Red Sea. An F-18 Super Hornet is returning to the USS Truman after completing an airstrike in Yemen. Standard approach, friendly aircraft, squawking the right codes. The USS Gettysburg, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser operating as part of the Truman Strike Group, fires an SM-2 surface-to-air missile at it. The pilot ejects. The aircraft goes into the sea. The Gettysburg had misidentified the returning Super Hornet as an incoming anti-ship cruise missile. This was the first time a crewed American aircraft had been shot down in the 14 months that U.S. forces had been operating against the Houthis. It was not shot down by the Houthis. It was shot down by an American cruiser that was supposed to be protecting the carrier it was flying home to. The Navy's investigation into this incident found that the Gettysburg's captain made a decision that was, quote, neither reasonable nor prudent and could have been prevented by action at multiple levels. The root cause: a lack of integrated training between the USS Gettysburg and the rest of the carrier strike group. The crews did not have enough practice operating together in a live combat environment. When a high-stress moment arrived, at night, in a threat-saturated Red Sea, the coordination that should have prevented a misidentification simply was not there. An American pilot ejecting into the Red Sea at night because his own cruiser shot at him. That is not a story about the Houthis. That is a story about what 8 months of sustained high-tempo combat operations do to a strike group that was not fully ready for them. April 28, 2025. The USS Truman is in the Red Sea. A report comes in of an incoming Houthi ballistic missile. The carrier takes evasive action, a hard turn at high speed. On the flight deck, a tow tractor is moving an F-18 Super Hornet. The hard turn shifts the deck geometry faster than the tractor crew can compensate. The aircraft and the tractor go over the side. The pilot was not in the aircraft. Both crew members from the tractor were recovered. The Super Hornet went to the bottom of the Red Sea. The Navy's investigation found that poor communication among the deck crew during the maneuver was partly to blame. The carrier was responding to a real threat. The Houthi ballistic missile attack was genuine. But the coordination between the ship's bridge and the flight deck crew during high-speed maneuvers was not where it needed to be. This incident captures something specific about what sustained combat operations in a contested environment do to carrier operations. A carrier deck is one of the most controlled and choreographed environments in any military. Every movement is sequenced, every position is tracked, every signal has a meaning. When the ship makes an unplanned violent maneuver because a ballistic missile is inbound, all of that choreography can break down in a matter of seconds. The aircraft on the deck becomes a multi-ton problem. May 2025. An F-18 Super Hornet is making an arrested landing on the USS Truman. The tailhook catches the wire. The arresting cable stretched across the deck that is the difference between a safe landing and a 30-knot aircraft running off the end of an aircraft carrier into the ocean. The wire fails. The cable had not been properly assembled. The aircraft goes over the bow. Both pilots eject. Both are rescued. The investigation found that poor oversight and inadequate training led to the arresting gear not being properly set up. This is not a complicated systems failure. It is a maintenance failure. Someone did not assemble the equipment correctly. Someone else did not catch it. The oversight layer that exists to prevent exactly this kind of error did not work. The Truman had been at sea, in a combat zone, for months. Fatigue, stress, and the grinding pace of sustained operations had degraded the procedural discipline that keeps a carrier deck running without catastrophic errors. In December 2025, the Navy released the consolidated findings of its investigations into the 3 incidents. The language it used was not diplomatic. Substandard practices, knowledge, and other failures. Catastrophic. Preventable at multiple levels. The investigators found a pattern that cut across all 3 incidents. The Truman Strike Group had spent too long in a high-tempo combat environment without the training integration, maintenance oversight, and operational coordination that prevents these kinds of cascading failures. The group deployed in September 2024 and did not return until June 2025, 9 months in the Red Sea, conducting strikes against a target set that could not be degraded fast enough to end the campaign. The Houthis, operating out of an impoverished country with no navy and no air force, had forced the United States to keep one of its most capable carrier strike groups in a combat zone long enough that the accumulated stress of operations began to show in the accident record. That is an asymmetry as stark as any drone economics comparison. The Houthis did not shoot down 3 American aircraft. The conditions the Houthis created shot down 3 American aircraft. The Yemen campaign that the Truman supported is worth understanding as a whole, because the aircraft losses are a symptom of a larger strategic problem. The United States began striking Houthi targets in response to Houthi attacks on commercial shipping and U.S. naval vessels in the Red Sea. By March 2025, the U.S. had conducted more than 800 strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen, according to Task and Purpose. Those strikes destroyed a significant amount of infrastructure. They did not stop the attacks. The Houthis have a simple operational theory: absorb the strikes, preserve the ability to keep firing, and outlast the American political will to continue. It is not a new theory. It is the same one that has worked against American air campaigns more than once in the past 50 years. Air power can destroy things. It is less reliable at changing what a motivated adversary is willing to endure. By May 2025, reporting from multiple sources described the campaign as floundering. A subsequent ceasefire, brokered without conditions that addressed the Houthi threat to shipping, was claimed by the Houthis as a victory. Whether it was won depends on what you think the campaign was supposed to achieve. What it did achieve was this: 3 A-18 Super Hornets at the bottom of the Red Sea, a carrier strike group with a catastrophic accident record, and a Houthi movement that is still intact, still armed, and still capable of launching the same attacks that started the campaign. The 3 aircraft losses should not be taken as evidence that the A-18 Super Hornet is a bad aircraft. It is not. It is one of the most capable multi-role fighters in service and has performed exactly as designed in the Yemen campaign and in Operation Epic Fury against Iran. What the losses reveal is something more uncomfortable. The operating conditions that the Red Sea campaign created were more demanding than the peacetime training pipeline fully prepares strike groups for. 9 months of continuous combat operations in a threat environment with Houthi ballistic missiles, anti-ship missiles, and drone swarms against a target set that cannot be decisively degraded. That is a stress test that surfaces the gaps in training, coordination, and maintenance discipline that normal operations conceal. The Navy knows this. The December 2025 investigation findings were not classified. They were released publicly in detail with direct accountability language. That is not the behavior of an institution covering something up. It is the behavior of an institution trying to learn. The question the Yemen campaign poses, not just for the Navy, but for any serious analysis of U.S. military power, is this: How long can a carrier strike group sustain high-tempo combat operations in a contested environment before the accumulated cost starts to look like the cost of the campaign itself? 3 aircraft, 0 combat losses to enemy fire. All 3 lost to the weight of the deployment itself.